What's up, folks? This is Acid Roots. I'm going to review 50 Cent's greatest hits album, Best of. Now, this kind of came out in kind of a gap between 50 Cent's music career. Still, the last album that he had done was 2014's Animal Ambition, which actually was not on Shady Records or Aftermath or Interscope. Might have been on Interscope, but it wasn't on Eminem and Dr. Dre's label. And before that, it was way back in 2009 with Before I Self Destruct, which really underperformed. And the thing about it was 50 Cent was going to drop an album called Street King Immortal, but he dropped a few singles. They didn't do that well. He tried getting people like Eminem and Adam Levine on there, folks like that, and for the most part, it looks like he scrapped it. This greatest hits album came out in 2017, 8 years after his last album for Shady, and it was just kind of unfortunate because it doesn't really feel like it has 50 Cent's actual uh, effort put into this. This is kind of something, and he said that he signed a 5 album deal way back in 2002 to Eminem's label, but unfortunately, it just was something to kind of get the rest of their money out of it. And I would estimate this is probably the least popular out of the 5 things that 50 Cent did on his own for Aftermath and Shady. The problem with it, I mean, I'm not going to give this album a bad score. It's going to get a 10, but the unfortunate thing is there is way much more. I typically like to review greatest hits albums just because they usually do like some clever stuff. They'll make a couple new songs. They'll have all of their best works, that sort of stuff. Like for example, Eminem's Curtain Call is state of the art, and that's the thing with every single hit that he had. Almost, I mean, even the ones that weren't on there, it was kind of seen as acceptable as to that reason. But then part of it made up for it just by having like new songs, like having the Hard to Get, Eight or Lose Yourself on there. It also had Shake That and When I'm Gone, Facts, some of those records. So Eminem at least put effort into the greatest hits. 50 Cent did not do this. You do get some new songs on here and some hard to get songs, but it's not with the same presentation. That's kind of the thing. I wish there would have been something 50 Cent would have said, hey, I've got a single that I may not take seriously, but can at least be on here to kind of help promote this project. Eminem is not on here at all. So all those songs that they did together, none of those show up on here. And there's a couple questionable songs that aren't on this project that are some of 50 Cent's best that just don't make it. So that's just kind of the situation. Is you have to kind of say, I mean, I still feel like all the songs that are hits on this project result in it being like a classic album, but it just is like hell. I mean, it could have been a double disc classic album. I don't know how many double disc albums get 10 out of 10s, but considering that this had 18 songs and 50 Cent definitely had enough hits in his catalog to fill out a double album. We'll talk about that as this review goes on, but I guess I'll just go through the songs. So there wasn't really any new singles, like I said. So we'll just go down the list of the albums that there are on here, and you'll kind of see what I mean. So first off, we have the stuff he did from his first album, Get Rich or Die Trying. So In the Club, 21 Questions, PIMP. All three of these songs kick ass. In the Club is a brilliant club song. 21 Questions is a brilliant kind of reflective and relationship song that kind of has like a sense of jeopardy to it, and it's not quite your typical relationship song. It's kind of more moody. And then PIMP is just a swag song, kind of personality type song that's showing off 50 Cent's charisma. And plus, it's real hooky and melodic, sing-songable. So all those worked real well. But there was so much more from Get Rich or Die Trying that should have been on here. I mean, Many Men definitely should have been on here. That's not even a single, but it's such a popular song. Eminem should have had. There should have been Patiently Waiting just to show off his camaraderie with Eminem. And Wangsta's not on here. So all of those is like, what the hell, Fifth? That should have been on here. I mean, when they say greatest hits, Wangsta was one of his best, especially considering that that was basically like his first hit. But then we go to the Massacre, which has one more song. It has 4 songs on here. So, thing about the Massacre is they didn't miss out on any of the Massacre songs. I kind of wish that the Massacre would have had like a 4th single. I mean, obviously it just had Disco Inferno, Candy Shop, and just a little bit, and that was as far as the original was promoted. But then they did the special edition with the Out of Control remix, produced by Dr. Dre with Mobb Deep. But then that was all as far as the Massacre went. There was no other songs that ever got promoted, and it was such a massive album. I would have figured that they would have done that. Candy Shop is a song for the ladies that kind of has like a sexual, a more candid sexual kind of coding to it, more so than 21 Questions did. Just a Little Bit is kind of a real flirty song. I like that one. It's a song I remember from 50 Cent that just was real smooth. I mean, he usually is more abrasive and kind of loud with his prowess, but he was just more laid back in that song. It's like the song's called Just a Little Bit. And then Disco Inferno is another brilliant club song. That's basically like the sequel to In the Club almost, just considering how hooky that one was. But then after that, 50 Cent did the Get Rich or Die Trying soundtrack, which came out with the movie. So I'm glad that that showed up on here. Window Shopper is probably the best one. I feel like that's the best one out of the singles he dropped. I didn't really like Best Friend Remix. That was one of the 3 songs I didn't enjoy. I think I liked the original version, but I don't know what was up with Olivia on there. It's not, I mean, she's attractive and she can sing and rap and that sort of stuff, but it felt kind of flat. I mean, it just wasn't as hypnotizing as the original one. And Hustler's Ambition, that has a real nice hook on there. It just feels good. Not quite as big as Eminem's Lose Yourself, but still pretty solid. It's definitely a good movie soundtrack song. It's one of the better soundtrack songs that you'll hear. So then we get to Curtis. And by this point, this is where most people kind of broke away from 50 Cent and started to think he was over the hill. And I remember those days, Kanye was giving him problems, Cameron was giving him problems, Dipset was giving him problems. There's a bunch of folks were giving him problems back in those days. And 50 Cent went from a multi-platinum artist back in the earliest days to just like a platinum, just barely platinum at that. So AO technology is dope. I mean, that's the thing. It's real. I mean, the beat's great. Justin Timberlake does a good job on the hook. It's real infectious. And so is I Get Money. I mean, these are brilliant songs. I mean, 50 Cent definitely got his swagger back on I Get Money. I'm surprised that didn't chart higher. Straight to the Bank is a real, that's probably the most underground song on here. Straight to the Bank. This is so mellow, so soft spoken, not really alarming and ferocious, but it works. It's real kind of catchy, despite the fact that that one was somewhat responsible for 50 Cent kind of losing some of his bite, but it's still a decent song. But I didn't like I'll Still Kill. That's another of the 3 songs I didn't enjoy. I mean, Akon kind of gave a decent hook, but it's kind of meh. It's the most outlandish song on here. It's the one that doesn't fit in the most. That's why I probably would have put Wangsta in there or Many Men. Those were just better songs. But all right, now we get to the Before I Self-Destruct and kind of the in-between days. So there are 2 songs that are just outtakes that are not on any 50 Cent album, and those would be the songs Get Up and I Get It In. And the thing about Get Up is that it came out the year after he dropped Curtis, and he was going to put out Before I Self-Destruct back then, but it got delayed. And so it's a decent song. I mean, I didn't enjoy it back when it first came out, but I respect it more now just because it's just such an underground 50 Cent type song. It's like he knew he wasn't going to be back on his In the Club and Disco Inferno days, so he just kind of made a club song that was kind of more underground and just kind of to stomp around, pull up, get some bitches, that sort of stuff. It worked. And then I Get It In had a Dr. Dre beat, and that's kind of what a lot of folks were looking for. 50 Cent with Dr. Dre 50 Cent with Dr. Dre again, that sort of stuff. The hook is great. The beat is one of the best on here. That was just outstanding. I mean, that definitely was a crime that that was not on Before I Self Destruct. It should have been. But the lone song that's represented from Before I Self Destruct is this Baby by Me, and that's really a silky song. I mean, 50 Cent sounds a lot more passionate with the lyrics for the ladies this time than he does in songs like Just a Little Bit or PIMP, 21 Questions, which is kind of close to this. But that's, I mean, Candy Shop. I mean, all the songs for ladies, this is his most sensual, probably. And Neo on the hook it works also, but it's maybe a little bit too bubblegum. That's the thing. I mean, it works for what it is. I mean, if it's just more romantic. That's kind of the situation about that. And then I did not like How to Rob, which had the Mad Rapper, and that's like 50 Cent before he got signed. Beat was terrible, and 50 Cent just sounded like a combination of DMX and Biggie. I mean, considering that he's from New York, that's not too terrible, but he just didn't do a very good job. I'm glad that he found his sound more later, so that's definitely kind of the thing. Well, this album gets a 10 out of 10 just because of all the hits on there. So if you added up the three songs I said I didn't enjoy, which was Best Friend, I'll Still Kill, and How to Rob, I mean, beyond that, everything else on here is top notch. So it gets a 10. Three songs out of 50, or out of 18 I didn't enjoy. So yeah, that works. um, the social score might as well get a 10 just because it has mostly everything. But I'm going to talk about some of the concept of what could have been on here because like I said, I mean, if 50 Cent had put a little bit more effort into this, it could have been a classic double album, which just does not happen. Eminem had the ability to do double albums also, classic, but at least in greatest hits, but 50 Cent definitely could have. So I'm going to list some songs that should have been on here that could have made this a classic double album. Wangsta, Patiently Waiting with Eminem, If I Can't, the fourth single off of Get Rich or Die Tryin', Stunt 101 from the G Unit album, Have a Party with Mobb Deep and Nate Dogg from the Get Rich or Die Tryin' soundtrack, Do You Think About Me from Before I Self Destruct, that needed to be promoted further. Wanna Get to Know You, another single off the G Unit album, and then of course Many Men. So that would have wound up, if they would have included all 8 of those songs, it would have pushed it to 26, which would have been 13 on each CD, and I guarantee that that would have been enough to make that a classic. And then obviously if 50 Cent would have dropped like 1 or 2 brand new songs along with it, something like that. So maybe it was a song he recorded like in 2007, 2009, 2010. I don't really care, but that's about the only thing I could really say that was missing from this particular project that could have helped push it over the edge. But apart from that, it does have almost all of the hits from 50 Cent. But, you know, for folks who know 50 Cent, you know that it's not the complete package like it claims to be. So